Begin afresh every morning. Devotional thoughts for women.
Hello, my beloved friends. Today, August 19th, 2023, our devotional is entitled The Sermon in the Storm. The scripture reading is taken from Jonah chapter 1, verse 9. So he said to them, I am a Hebrew, and I fear the Lord, the God of heavens, who made the sea and the dry land. To avoid his mission, Jonah fled from the Lord's presence. Jonah chapter 1 verse 3. And he went into the opposite direction to Tarshish. We are not sure of the location of Tarshish, but everything points to it being as far from Nineveh as possible in Jonah's world. Although Jonah ran away from God, God did not reject him nor abandon him. And there on the ship that Jonah had boarded fleeing the Lord was present. Since they were superstitious, the sailors on Jonah's ship believed that the storm that came over them on the ship was evidence that the gods were angry. They decided to draw lots to find out who the guilty one was. God intervened to show Jonah that he could not flee from his presence. And the storm wasn't because the gods were angry, but because of the loving, redeeming love of Jonah's God. The sailors questioned Jonah to make sure he was the guilty one. They said, Tell us, who is responsible for making all this trouble for us? What kind of work do you do? Where do you come from? What is your country? From what people are you? See Jonah chapter 1, verses 8 and 9. Jonah was silent, ignoring their questions, replying only about his cultural background. I am Hebrew, and adding, I fear God. This was a Hebrew response that implied the idea of worshiping and serving the one God. Jonah had refused to preach to the Gentiles in Nineveh, but he was forced to preach to the ship's crew. The men were impressed by the power of Jonah's God, not as much by his preaching as by the power manifested in nature. Don't wait for circumstances to make you feel forced to confess what God you follow, what God you worship and serve. Jonah presented God as the creator of heaven and earth, a confession that filled the sailors with terror as they faced death at sea. Be ready at all times to share about the great Creator God who has control over natural laws. When you are asked about the natural disasters and things that this planet experiences. Jonah's spiritual fall was exemplified by his physical motion. He went down to Joppa, Jonah chapter 1 verse 3. Then he went down to the ship, and from there he went down into the lowest part of the ship, Jonah chapter 1 verse 5. Later he went down to the depths of the sea, Jonah chapter 1 verse 12. And finally he went down into the mouth of a great fish. There is no place so low where God cannot rescue you. Although running away from God is never a good idea, He is an expert at second chances. Call to Him and He will find you.